Here's another important video from the Personal Defense Network. How's the practice session going, Claude?
You know, it's going really well.
Great.
I've had a couple of good learning opportunities, and I'm really enjoying getting some practice in.
Well, I think it's time for me to get some of those learning opportunities, too.
Great, great.
So one of the things I'm going to do, of course, this is a first time for me running through your drills with your methodology. And of course, for those of you seeing this at home for the first time, if you've been watching the series and followed the methodology of combat focus and things that we do in our reloads and integrating the flinch on presentation from the holster, of course, we want to integrate those, and I'll be integrating those into my drill. If that's not part of your practice, if you're part of another system or another approach to firearms training or use other mechanical techniques, that's irrelevant. The methodology that Claude has set up for dry fire practice is so you can practice when you can't get to the range, when you don't have ammo, time, resources, budget. All of those issues shouldn't stop you from practicing your preferred techniques. And in fact, through practice like this, you might find out that there are some weaknesses in your technique that we want to switch one way or the other and improve our capabilities overall. That's a great thing about dry fire practice, is it allows you to have the opportunity to practice more.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
I've got a dummy magazine here. You want to check
Great.
that? It's been
Great.
set up the way you recommended with a stick in there so that I can't get rounds in. And of course, we've painted it blue. One of the other things I noticed when you were going over all of the safety equipment, you know, I can remember when orange was the safe color because of, you know, hunter orange. And now, of course, blue in military and law enforcement safe color. Either way, we can't take any of that for granted.
Correct.
Yeah, just
Correct.
because something's a certain color does not mean it's safety equipment. You need to check and make sure yourself. And even here we have blue on the magazine, but I think you have one of the yellow safety barrels in there?
I do.
Great.
I do.
So that gives us two colors we're working with here, both of which are designated as safe in this case. In fact, I noticed even when I came into this safe area, I came in behind you. You know, and that's another good point with any safe area. We wouldn't want someone to walk in and think you were pointing a real gun at them or feel threatened, and maybe even if they were harmed, certainly cause you a problem. We would hate to have that happen inside of a house. That would be tragic for a family or a group of friends. So having that doorway to your back in your safe area is another important safety point. So if you don't mind, I'll actually take that Glock and use that for the drills.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. So what are we going to do first?
Now, the first thing we're going to do, Rob, is just present from a high compressed ready.
Okay, I'll take your position, and
Okay.
if you want to keep an eye on this from over there and see what I'm doing right or wrong.
Go ahead and draw your pistol to your preferred ready position.
Okay.
And I've got the timer set for 0.8 of a second.
Okay, great.
Here we go. Stand by.
And of course, I'm going to integrate lateral movement, and I'm going to integrate my immediate action drill to reset the pistol after that click. I'm going to tap and rack. Of course, if I recognize that I hit the mag well, and I didn't actually hit a magazine, I would initiate a reload sequence at that point, find that magazine, follow the body up, insert it firmly into the mag well, rotate my hand around, rack, and then reset in the ready position or shoot, depending on the scenario. So this dry fire training just gave me an immediate action drill for failure to fire, gave me lateral movement practice, gave me presentation practice, and also gave me the opportunity to practice a reload when my firearm wasn't set up the way I wanted it to be. All of which might be missed if all I did was do it perfectly. So once again, the learning opportunities abound in dry fire practice as well as live fire. Let's try that again.
Here we go. Stand by.
So what are you seeing?
Looks like you're presenting it pretty well. Nice smooth trigger pull. And I don't notice that the sights are dipping or anything. And that's what, as your partner in this, I'd be looking for, is to see that your pistol is not dipping especially. Very common, as you know, that people will press the trigger really hard. Sometimes we call it snatching. And that causes the pistol to nosedive, creating a low shot. That's one of the things that, as a partner, I'd be looking for on you.
Okay, great. And then I know one of the things that I'll see a lot with presentation, even from the ready, is that people might plane the gun out this way, looking for that front sight early, you know, based on a balance of speed and precision issue. If they're trying to pick up that front sight, they might tip the gun up and not plane it out parallel with their line of sight. So that's another thing we'd be looking for, is does the gun break that plane, which of course is inefficient, and then they have to pull it back down, and this could cause an early shot to go high. So that's another thing. If you don't mind keeping an eye on me for that, we want to make sure that that's not happening. Do you mind we go from the holster?
Absolutely. Let's do that. Let me set the timer up.
Now, of course, while Claude's setting up that timer, concurrent with our counter-ambush worst-case scenario training, I'll be integrating the flinch prior to my presentation from the holster as if I was caught off guard and startled by this person that presents a threat.
All right, get ready. I've got it set for 1.5 seconds. Let's see what happens. Now that looked pretty good, Rob. Let's try that again.
Okay, and one thing I noticed was missing as I was reholstering, of course, is we want to integrate as much as possible from our real-world training. I'm going to make sure to assess my environment afterwards, and that's the kind of thing, again, that a training partner can catch. Or, to be honest with you, if you set up a video camera, which we can now get pretty inexpensively, a simple digital video camera will allow you to review your session afterwards, and you might pick up on things like that that you're not doing that you know you want to do.
I think the video camera is a great training partner.
Really is, and in the absence of having a live person to do the immediate correction, it's the next best thing.
One more time. Stand by.
Well, I think I was a little closer on the time that time, and sometimes we find with that lateral movement to get offline and other things, we might want to adjust the time. If I were getting past that beep, of course, we'd set that beep a little bit longer. Integrating the real-world responses of flinch and making sure we get offline and everything else that we want to practice doing with live fire is an important component to any of the practice sessions. I think you'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Great. What's next?
Let's try a reload.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you have another magazine, perchance? Great.
There you go. And let me set my timer. Let's try that at 3 seconds, Rob.
Okay.
Now, draw your pistol, lock your slide to the rear, and once again, because we're doing this in a training environment, we don't have the actual feel of the pistol locking open or the sight of it, so we're going to use the initial beep as our simulation of recognizing that the pistol has locked open.
Okay, sounds good.
Aim in on your target, stand by.
Well, I think we might be able to go a little bit faster on that.
I think so.
Let's try that. You want to make sure you're pushing yourself. If you stay too far in your safety zone, then you may not be getting the most out of it. You may not even know where your limit is. Now, I don't mind bending over and picking up the magazines just to get that extra bit of feel. Of course, if I were to come back and hit that magazine release and the magazine didn't fall out, I would want to be able to recognize that in my brain. So as many reps as I can, as close to the real world, out on the range, or worst case scenario, defensive situation as I can get is the way I want to train whenever possible.
And aim in on your target.
And what's the time set for now?
Time set for 2.5 seconds.
Okay, great.
Stand by.
So clearly, dry fire environments can give us an opportunity to train almost all of our fundamentals. Claude, how do you solve the problem? Because I know you've probably figured out a way to address it. How do you solve the problem of the recoil management issue when we don't actually have a round going off?
When you have a partner, like you and I are right now, what I can do as the partner is work the slide for you while you're doing the shooting. What that does is that'll simulate the recoil of the pistol and allow you to check your position out, see if you're not set up correctly, you're standing up too straight, get pushed back by the recoil. That's a good way of managing that.
Okay.
So why don't we try that out?
Absolutely. So are we going to start, I guess, with no magazine in?
Start with no magazine in.
Okay.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to present the pistol to the target, break a shot, and when you do that, I'll reach over and just work the slide for you, and you'll be able to see how your position worked when the pistol fired.
Sounds good. So we don't really need the timer for this. I'm just going to go ahead and present and do my thing. Okay, sounds good.
Anytime you're ready.
So clearly, you saw me move back a little bit. Now, if we run that tape back, or if you run that tape back at home, you might find a deficiency in my body position. We always want to make sure that our knees are bent to simulate that realistic crouch, the lowering of the center of gravity. And of course, making sure that the shoulders are forward of the hips when we're getting recoil from the firearms, that we give as much support as we can to the frame of the pistol. Let's try that again.
Yeah.
And that time I actually went forward, almost gaming it, probably putting too much effort forward. So finding that balance, the appropriate balance, we certainly wouldn't want to fall down on our face, pushing ourselves forward into the recoil, which probably would lead to a flinch anyway if I were really shooting. Let's try that one more time. That one felt better.
Now that one, you look, your body was very stable, no movement forward nor back that was noticeable, good repetition. So we got a good learning opportunity out of the first two and figured out how to make our position work.
Check out more videos just like this one at the Personal Defense Network.